Now let's walk west across the Main Street Bridge and to the corner of Main and First Street. Welcome to stop number 5, the historical Hotel Baker. Built in 1928 by Colonel Edward J. Baker, this hotel is one of the most recognized buildings in St. Charles. Built on the grounds of the old Haynes flour mill and stockyard, then was on a track to being turned into a city garbage dump when Baker bought the land and made it his $1 million hotel. Baker, who was becoming famous in the racing circles, wanted a place to celebrate with his friends close to the Arcata Theater, and so the grand idea of the hotel came about. The Hotel Baker had a lot of unique features that attracted much attention when it opened on June 2nd, 1928. One of the major things was the Rainbow Room. This Rainbow Room was a glass floor that lit up with a variety of different colors when it would light up for concerts and when the organ played. It would coordinate with the dam colors and would create a light show. One other thing that attracted a lot of attention was that the hotel supplied most of its own electricity. Because the hotel was built on the old flour mill, there was a raceway under the hotel, and the hotel was designed to use that raceway to power a large generator to supply electricity for the hotel. Over the years, the occasional flooding of the river took its toll on the generator, and it ceased to work. It was only recently removed. Between the beauty of the Rainbow Room and the tranquility of the lavish rose gardens in the back of the hotel and the luxury of the hotel rooms, it's no surprise that the hotel became known as the gem of the valley and the crown jewel of the Fox. During the 1930s and 1940s, it was a popular location for newlyweds and was often referred to as the honeymoon hotel. But to Colonel Edward J. Baker, it was home. He lived in his fifth-floor penthouse until he died in 1959 at the age of 90. Ownership of the hotel was given to his niece Delora Norris. She then sold it to the Lutheran Social Services, and they nearly ran it for 30 years as a retirement home. Today it's once again the grand hotel it was intended to be, and remains the crown jewel of the Fox, and the statue of Colonel Edward J. Baker still sits outside of the Hotel Baker that bears his name today. Proceeding west along Main Street, we turn north into 3rd Street and come to the corner of 3rd and Cedar Street. Welcome to stop number 6, the Old Colonial House. For over 66 years, this building was home to Colonial Ice Cream. Colonial was started in 1901 as Anderson's Dairy by Simon Anderson. When they were just beginning, they delivered milk and milk products to customers along a route purchased in St. Charles. By 1910, ice cream was added to the list of items that Anderson Dairy offered. In the 1920s, the Anderson Dairy began producing ice cream for Colonial Ice Cream Company in Plainfield, Illinois. And by the late 1920s, the Colonial Ice Cream Company sold their route and name to Anderson Dairy. Anderson Dairy slowly drifted away from the original offerings of milk and milk products, just to ice cream and frozen treats. He finally opened the first retail store in 1934, as well as the milk and ice cream production operation. And even though this establishment doesn't stand here today, there are 7 locations around the suburbs, with 2 in St. Charles, of the Colonial Cafes still in Illinois. Across Cedar Street is the new restaurant Alibi. Before this restaurant opened, the building was home to a group of small boutiques specializing in a variety of different sales items. Over the years, however, the buildings have housed a number of different businesses. At one time, there was a car dealership, the Voss Furniture Store, that was also located here. At one time, but perhaps most memorable of all, was the fact the nightclub known as the Jaguar Club was located there, and on August 10, 1968, hosted by the rock band The Who.
Walking west on Cedar to 4th Street, we come to the St. Patrick's Church buildings. The original St. Patrick Church, located just south of Cedar Avenue on 4th Street, what today is an Italian restaurant, was built in 1851 using limestone from a quarry located about 1 block away at the current location of the VFW Hall. The land for the church was donated by Ira Menard and Darwin Millington. The church was built by James O'Connor and brothers Patrick and Dennis Long. The church was dedicated on July 9, 1851, and was named St. Patrick to honor either the large number of Irish immigrants in the area or for the Reverend Patrick O'Dwyer, the first resident pastor. At the time, St. Patrick Parish encompassed not only the town of St. Charles, but also the surrounding areas of what later became the towns of West Chicago, Geneva, Batavia, and Elburn. These areas all split into separate parishes between the years 1855 and 1912. In January 1922, Father Philip Dudley Healy became the first young man from the parish to be ordained a priest, beginning a proud tradition which has produced many fine priests over the years. On January 26, 1929, Father Carsey purchased land adjacent to the church to begin construction of a school. Funds for this project were donated by the Annie Rempe family in memory of George H. Rempe. The school opened on January 6, 1930, the Feast of the Epiphany, with a celebration of Mass before the 187 students attending classes. Students from the neighboring towns of Geneva, Batavia, Elburn, and West Chicago also attended school at St. Patrick's and were taught by the Adrian Dominican sisters. The school was officially dedicated on May 11, 1930, and the first graduation was celebrated on June 17, 1930, with a class of 14 students. As the enrollment grew, Father Walsh began construction on a new, larger school building in 1955, using the old church across the street for extra classrooms until the new school was completed in 1960. There were also several improvements made to the church building during this time, including marble altars, a communion rail, and the beautiful stained glass windows. The convent was remodeled, and the rectory had an addition of 4 rooms, all for a total cost of $390,000. The entire debt for all the building and improvements was retired within 1 year. And in the spring of 1990, Father Tom Dempsey oversaw the groundbreaking for a second worship site for St. Patrick's Church out on Crane Road. Most recently, the parish built a new school adjacent to the Crane Road Church, which opened for the 2011-2012 school year.
Now let's head back to Main Street to begin our trip back across town. Walking east along Main Street, we come to the corner of 3rd Street and Main Street. Once upon a time, when trolley cars could be heard clanging up and down Main Street, the corner of 3rd and Main was known as Whiskey Bend. At that time, bars were located on all 4 corners of this intersection, and when the trolley stopped, the conductor would yell out, "Whiskey Bend," and men would jump off the cars and flock to the bars for a quick drink before continuing on the trolley ride. The local chapter of the Women's Christian Temperance Union soon put a stop to that, but today the corner is once again bearing some resemblance to the old Whiskey Bend. The unoccupied building on the southwest corner of 3rd Street and Main Street was in the past Clink's wagon shop, a supposed stop on the Underground Railroad. It was thought that Mr. Clink would bring in wagons that were in need of repairs that contained hidden runaway slaves, and once they were safely unloaded, they would be whisked away to another safe house in the area. In later years, the Blue Goose Market was located here. This was the second home for the family-run business, the first being just down Main Street in the next block east. More recently, Antique Market 2 and Scotland Yard were located here. Directly across Main Street from this building is the Filling Station restaurant. Originally, this was the sister Texaco station to the one across the river where the St. Charles History Museum is now located. Because he was on the board of directors of Texaco and his wife was heir to the Texaco fortune, Lester Norris wanted to be able to stop at a Texaco station whenever he needed to fill up his car, no matter what side of town he was on. Today, the filling station is decorated with old gas station signs and pumps as a tribute to the role the building used to play in town. Next to the filling station is the building that served as St. Charles's first hospital. Built in 1913 by Doctors Edith and Richard Lambert, the Lambert Convalescing Home was used until 1925 when the American Legion opened a hospital on North 2nd Avenue in the old Dr. Gillette home. East of the filling station on Main Street is the Beehive Tavern and Grill, but in 1851, when it was originally built, it was known as the White Front Hotel. St. Charles was a popular stopping point for travelers on their way to and from Chicago and DeKalb. The White Front was one of many hotels that operated over the years in St. Charles, and it was the only one that was able to survive the changing times.